Welcome everyone. Thanks very much to Dan, Gabby, the rest of the team for having me here, and for all of you for coming. Today I want to be talking about my main area of research, which is the Darknet illicit drugs trade. I've been working in this space for around 5 years now, which is basically as long as the Darknet has been trading illicit drugs for any significant in any significant quantities. But the internet-based drug trade actually goes back further than that. Can anyone hazard a guess as to when the first illicit drug deal was done on the internet? Hazard a guess, a year. 94, earlier. 1980, earlier. In fact, we need to go back to the 1970s. In fact, the first ever online transaction for anything was for an undisclosed amount of cannabis between students at MIT and Stanford as they were building the bare bedrock of the internet that we see around us today. So this is, as Dan was saying before, there's always technological innovation at the forefront, and drugs and illicit drug trading is right at the edge of that. Next slide, please. So crypto markets, what we call more colloquially darknet drug sites, rely on three primary technologies, one of which you've likely heard of, eBay, and the other two, to a more tech crowd probably familiar with, Tor, which is the onion router. This is basically the acronym for the Darknet. Tor is an incredibly powerful encryption tool, but it's also freely available. It's basically a different version of Chrome or Safari or Internet Explorer that you can download to your computer. If you were to do so, I wouldn't recommend doing it from your home computer because the AFP likes to keep track of these kinds of things. So once you've downloaded Tor to your computer, basically what it does, the layman's version, is it scrambles your IP address, which means you can host and you can send information without the authorities being able to see who you are or where you're hosting this information from. It was developed in partnership between a few private organizations and US naval intelligence back in the early 2000s, and pretty much from the beginning it was being used for a whole bunch of nefarious purposes. But it wasn't until the development of Bitcoin, which is an encrypted electronic blockchain currency, in the late 2000s that we start to see the development of the first crypto markets, Silk Road being the most popular of these. The important thing to know about crypto markets is that these sites, just like eBay, don't actually sell anything. Okay? They just host this encrypted infrastructure. So just like eBay doesn't sell sunglasses or shoes or anything, it creates a space where buyers and sellers can come together and to find each other, and that site just charges a commission on whatever goods and services are being sold. So for those of you who haven't seen a crypto market, they look something like this. This is a screenshot of the original Silk Road website. This was the first big archetypal kind of crypto market. And you can see it looks very similar to eBay in a number of important senses. Okay, you've got messages from the administrator of the site, the Dread Pirate Roberts. You've got your different product categories there, and you've got your different specials in front of it. The interesting thing, though, is you start to see some differences when you look at the types of products that are being traded. So you can see the drugs is the biggest single category there. Those little numbers to the right are the number of listings under any given category there. So you can see there's about just over 4,000 individual listings for under the drugs category. Just before Silk Road was shut down, that had about 12,000 individual listings. So that's 12,000 different drug dealers all offering you different products on the one side. Now when they did manage to actually track down the people who were running Silk Road, this was after a lengthy 2.5-year investigation run by the most powerful law enforcement agencies in the world, the FBI, the DEA, and so on. They didn't find some James Bond type level Spectre kind of advanced criminal organization. They found this guy. The rather dreamy-looking 20-something engineering dropout Ross Ulbricht, who was running the entire operation off a laptop using public Wi-Fi at a San Francisco library. He amassed, in 2.5 years, $80 million worth of bitcoins. Okay? This is the first international drug lord who managed to run a transnational drug distribution empire, but never actually kill someone in the process, okay? Or at least not proved in court. Once Ross Ulbricht was arrested and imprisoned, the law enforcement agencies declared this as the beginning of the end of the darknet drugs trade. Okay? They were demonstrating that no one was beyond the long arm of the law. But of course, that didn't turn out to be the case. Less than a month later, Silk Road 2 was up and running, and very quickly eclipsed in size Silk Road 1. Okay? Silk Road 2 had, just before it was shut down, about a year after it was initially run, around 17,000 different drug listings. The important thing about this was that the cat was already out of the bag. Okay? By the time Silk Road 2 was shut down, there were already dozens of other crypto markets in operation. One of the biggest ones that we see today is this next site, Dream Market. This has been running since this time. Collectively, these sites don't, none of them have as great a proportion of the trade concentrated in the one place as Silk Road did, but the trading volume is bigger than it's ever been. Okay? Australians report in the latest Global Drug Survey, around 8% of people who responded positively to the survey reported buying drugs at some point in their life off the darknet. And that's up 50% on the previous year. So the intriguing question for us as criminologists is, how do people compete in an online anonymous environment where people don't know each other? How do they generate trust? And we're going to see some answers to that here. If you were to click on any one of those seller pages, this is the kind of information you would likely see. Okay? This is from an Australian LSD and psychedelic trader. You can see here they've got 24-hour, 7 days a week priority-friendly and helpful customer service. Security is their passion. My favorite here is down the bottom. They're also a proud financial supporter of WikiLeaks and Blue Light. Okay? So just like Real Big Things, they're big into corporate social responsibility. You can see here what they're really into is branding. Okay? This is a branding exercise. Drug distributors, drug producers even, are in a position where they can communicate directly to their customers. On the left here, you can see this is from a different vendor. There's a Christmas sale. You can get 2-for-1 specials on International Pot Day, $4.20. Silk Road actually suspended all commissions on the site, so people could get cheaper cannabis. They were getting behind the game. Any kind of gimmick that you can think of in the legitimate marketing world, you will see on the darknet. Next slide, thanks. This is another kind of thing that you won't see from your conventional illicit drug dealer. That is a refund policy. Right? This is standard amongst the top dealers on all the crypto markets. I showed some of this information to our customs services here. I thought they'd be quite happy that the online drug dealers actually adjust their premiums here in Australia. They didn't think that this was as funny as I did. But the interesting thing about this is it shows some of the lengths to which online drug dealers will go to keep their customers happy. Next slide, thanks. This is when it starts going from the bizarre to the downright ludicrous, though, when we start to see this kind of marketing, branding rhetoric going on. This was from Evolution. This is a crypto market that's now been shut down. You can see these guys are into fair trade cocaine, and why not? Why not? We know a lot of illicit drug takers are into fair trade, are concerned with the amount of damage and violence in places like Mexico, and if you can get your drugs without blood on your hands, why not? Next slide, thanks. Now, the key to online illicit drug trading, what makes it work so smoothly, is this, the customer feedback system. Okay, so just like Uber or Airbnb or Yelp or any of the things that we see, it's customer feedback that actually powers this. This is how people compete online. Okay, it's by maintaining a positive relationship with their customers, unlike offline drug dealers who can compete really only in two ways. Okay, they compete by price or with violence. They can eliminate their drug competitors. Online people compete using superior customer service, product quality, and branding. Okay? All of the things that we like to see. And because of this, drug users, drug consumers, get to have some semi-independent indicator of the quality of the illicit drugs that they're buying. Okay? And this assists in harm reduction and also taking violence off the streets. Next slide, thanks. So these people, Okay, the conventional organised crime groups who use violence to control the illicit drugs trade. I liken these people to the big department stores back in the 1990s, okay, back before we started to see direct producer-to-consumer models of distribution. And back in those days, Myers, David Jones, they said no one's ever going to want to buy this stuff online. People are always going to want to come into the store, okay, to try on their sunglasses or their shoes or what have you. These people currently control the illicit drugs trade, and there's a lot of violence associated with that. Okay? Not necessarily because of the drugs, but because it's illegal. Right? These are the people who can control and use violence to intimidate and to eliminate their rivals. Under an online model of drug distribution where people are treated with respect, where people can access the drugs they want, and they can access better quality drugs, the people who are delivering your drugs safely, okay, and unbeknownst to them, are these guys. Right. There's silver linings to the darknet drugs trade. Thanks very much.